More liberal left-wing dark money has been spent against Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt in this election cycle than all the other governor races combined. Have you wondered why? Is it because he's one of the most faith, family, and freedom-focused governors in America? Why has the left targeted Oklahoma? And why have they targeted Governor Kevin Stitt with tens of millions of dollars?
Christians of Oklahoma, we cannot allow this to happen to these precious children. Moms and dads, we must stand up to protect our children from this wicked agenda. You must vote November 8th, this coming Tuesday. Do you think public school teachers in Oklahoma should be questioning primary school children about gender identity? Do you think public school teachers should be teaching primary school children about sexual perversion? Do you think males should be allowed to dominate over girls' sports or be in the bathrooms and locker rooms? Is this the kind of filth and craziness, the perversion you want taught to the children of Oklahoma? What about the continued mercilessness of the slaughter of the unborn? I'm for a family man, a pastor's son with a godly heritage. I'm for a successful businessman who has a proven track record, one of the most transparent and physically frugal administrations in the nation. I'm for a governor who's been outspent 5-1 because of dark money from entities outside of Oklahoma and inside that want to buy the election through shadow organizations. I'm for a Governor Kevin Stitt because a proven track record of standing up for faith, for family, and for freedom. Don't allow the deceptive lies, the attempted character assassinations, and the tens of millions of dollars poured through the television ads and social media to cloud your thinking. I'm telling you, it has been phenomenal to have a businessman with a biblical worldview functioning as our governor of Oklahoma.
Thank you. Man, it is great to be. It feels like I'm in the house of the Lord tonight with all of my Christian brothers and sisters. Well, here's the deal. Let me just give you a little update on what's happening. I want to tell you a little bit about my story. You know, I want to take us back. I grew up in Norman. I'm the son of a pastor. So proud of my mom and dad. You know, they instilled in me a godly foundation that's worth more than anything we could ever do. I started my business with $1,000 in a computer and then grew that. Today, we have over 1,000 employees. I have lived the American dream. And why did I run for governor? I want to take us back to 4 years ago. And if you remember, 4 years ago, what was happening in Oklahoma? We were having teacher walkouts, 4-day school weeks, budget deficits, billion-dollar budget deficits, almost zero money in savings. And I saw that wasn't happening in Tennessee and Texas and Florida and these other states that I had business in. And you know what? It is citizen-led. We're supposed to have a successful business person, or we're supposed to have a farmer, a rancher, or teacher that leaves that profession and then goes serves their state or their country. And that's exactly what I promised Oklahomans I would do. That's what our founders envisioned. They never thought politics was going to be a career and a profession. That's the only way you could focus on the next generation. And so Oklahoma's turnaround that you elected me to do, it is working. I am proud to announce, my fellow Oklahomans, we have the largest savings account in state history, $3 billion. We put more money in education than any other governor in history, okay? More money in education. Gave our teachers a wonderful pay raise. We hit the lowest unemployment we've ever had in our state history just a few months ago. People are waking up to the pro-business, pro-freedom policies that we have in Oklahoma. Did you know we are going to back the blue as long as I'm governor of the state of Oklahoma? We all want safe communities. So the other party is defunding the police right now. We gave Oklahoma Highway Patrol their first pay raise in almost a decade, a 30% pay raise, to show them how much we appreciate them. And we have done all of this while also cutting taxes for every single Oklahoman and every single business. Did y'all know we rank 11th in the country in migration to the state of Oklahoma? Not per capita, but true numbers. Number 11 in the country, fastest growing state right now. We don't know how fortunate we have it, folks. there's such a big difference right now between a red state and a blue state. They were shutting down churches, okay? I have friends that were getting $1,000 fines for not wearing a mask. I was one of the few governors that refused to do a mask mandate statewide. I think if you're clear with your culture and our values, it is super attractive to companies. So we're not shying away from our godly Christian values in the state of Oklahoma, okay? I'll tell you that. And I think about my grandparents a lot in my current role as governor. My mom's dad had an 8th grade education, was a dairy farmer in Skiatook, Oklahoma. My dad's dad was the head vet at the Oklahoma City Stockyards, Doc Stitt. If you ever shipped cattle through there, you'd have met him. And I think about them, and I think about if they knew some of the bills that I had to sign right now, they would not even believe it. From what is normal and the way we grew up and godly values and what the Bible teaches us. And I found out, and I've got a few legislators in the room that helped me with this, but we found out they were performing transgender surgeries in clinics in Oklahoma to healthy minor children, permanently sterilizing them. And we put a stop to it in the state of Oklahoma. And I tell people, all the time, if your neighbors or whoever is telling you, well, Stitt's being unsensitive or whatever, here's the deal. If you're an adult and you want to do an elective surgery and you're going to pay for it, you've got to answer to God for all your actions. But I'm not going to use taxpayer dollars in the state of Oklahoma to harm healthy children, right? And probably my favorite bill that I signed this year was the Save Women in Sports bill. Here's the deal. I'm not going to let boys play in college and high school soccer and girls volleyball and girls swimming and tennis and golf. And I have had so many young ladies all across the state from OU track athletes telling me, thank you, Governor, for protecting my scholarship. And the Washington Post interviewed me. And they said, Governor, you signed this controversial bill. And it's called Safe Women in Sports. And I was like, well, hang on, wait a second. It's really not controversial in Oklahoma. We know the difference between a boy and a girl in our state. And so God, when he was calling me, and I just felt him calling me, I kept going back to the Lord in prayer because I was so scared. We all have that little voice in our head that just like, who are you? You can't be governor. What? You're not good enough. You've never done this before. But I'm telling you, the devil tries to hold us back from our destiny, doesn't he? And God wants to do amazing things through ordinary people when we trust him and we step out in faith. And when my parents drilled this into me as a little boy, when God's for you, who can be against you? Right? So that's what I love about this room here and the city elders and one man's vision that just said, hey, I'm going to listen and I'm going to step out. And I'm sure it's unbelievable for him to see the movement that he's created. So thank you for being engaged in what's happening, because the Bible talks a lot about kings and priests. And we can't pass laws in Oklahoma City that are going to fix some of these social issues. We have to have the churches engaged, neighbor with neighbor, walking with one another. And so that's what my communication to all of the state agencies is: you've got to engage the churches. That is going to move the needle. BeANeighbor.com, we've actually set up to try to get churches more engaged with what the problems we see from the state's perspective. So please get involved with that organization as well. Check that out. And we give you some social issues that we think churches need to help the state government solve in the state of Oklahoma. When I think about education, I want to talk about this for a second, because somebody told me that there was a negative ad being run. I don't know. Has anybody seen that? There is $50 million trying to buy this race and trying to confuse and lie to Oklahomans. And so I'm here to set the record straight and tell you exactly what's happening and the truth behind it. And I will give you 50 million reasons why my opponent will always side with special interest over you, the people. And I will always stand for what's best for the next generation of Oklahomans. Education. I mean, it broke my heart during COVID. Most of our rural schools, and so they're sending out mailers saying, I'm going to close down rural schools and this. I don't know if you guys have gotten that. Nothing could be further from the truth, okay? Most of our rural schools were open the entire time during COVID, and they are actually teaching kids, not indoctrinating them. They know their superintendent. Those guys in rural Oklahoma would go down and have a whipping on somebody if they found this stuff in their schools. But let me just tell you something. Tulsa Public Schools was closed for 355 days during COVID. And if any of you were governor and you had to talk to the single moms, the single dads, that would call my office and they would say, Governor, I'm a waitress and I have to go to work during the day. And my first grader is not learning how to read on Zoom right now. It would break your heart. My kids were in school the whole time. What's so disgusting about this, the superintendent of Tulsa Public Schools, Deborah Gist, her stepdaughter that lived in her own home was in school the entire time in Broken Arrow while she was saying it wasn't safe to be open in Tulsa Public Schools. And folks, we have got to make sure that we promote that. We give parents options. We give parents, put them back in control. We want to empower kids, parents. We want to make sure we're teaching kids, not indoctrinate them. And I'm telling you, on November 8th, if we get, and when we get, Ryan Walters elected as State Superintendent of Education, and he's right there, stand up. There will not be another school that's closed down in the state of Oklahoma when Ryan Walters is involved. I guarantee you that. He thinks like we do. He is a public school teacher from McAlester, Oklahoma. He loves teachers. He wants to make sure the money's actually in the classroom, though, instead of at the administration level. Okay? We have more non-teachers right now than we do teachers. So we just set up a aviation high school in Norman, Oklahoma. And so what this means is that if you want to be a A&P mechanic, when you're a junior in high school, you can start going to this high school, and by the time you graduate, you're an A&P mechanic. Did you know Tulsa, American Airlines right here in Tulsa, they start the American Airlines A&P mechanic at $70,000 a year. Here's the deal. We need more doctors and lawyers, but we also need more A&P mechanics and electricians and plumbers. And we need to teach our kids that God uniquely designs everybody differently with different skills and desires, and give them pathways and giving them mentors and people to role models to look up to, and teach them that whatever they're good at, whatever their skills are, whatever God has put into their heart, there is a fantastic career for them. And we need to stop pigeonholing them into one direction and give them all those options that are available. That's what Ryan Walters believes. That's what I believe, is to give these parents more options in the school system. The last thing I want to close with is the crisis with energy and what's happening right now, and how Oklahoma is bringing common sense. And every time I go meet in Washington, D.C. with President Biden, we have this conversation, and his Secretary of Energy. Folks, there is an attack on our energy sector, oil and gas, right? And they're not even it's not even common sense. Every president of the United States since 1973 has had an energy independence policy. In other words, meet the needs of Americans with our own resources. Until this administration, day one in office, they kill the Keystone Pipeline. Day one in office, okay? They tax oil and gas more. They make it impossible to get new permits to drill. But if here's the deal, demand is the same. I'm still driving my kids to soccer practice and piano lessons. We're all heating our homes, our businesses. We're driving to school and work. So if you choke off supply, but demand's the same, what happens to pricing? That's right, it goes up. That's why we're dealing with 40-year highs in inflation, okay? Their solution, buy oil from Russia and OPEC and unleash our strategic stockpile. It makes no common sense. And we need more of everything. So that's why in Oklahoma, we're number 4 in oil production, number 3 in natural gas. We're also number 2 in wind energy production. We've got some of the cleanest water, cleanest air in the country. They don't know what to do when I tell them we're number 2 in wind, right? Because they don't want to, they're like, what? How can you do that? Anyway, the point is we need more of everything, so we're leaning into that. That is a huge advantage for Oklahoma economically with a robust energy grid and a reliable energy grid. That's where companies are moving to. They're having rolling blackouts in California. It costs $180 for a kilowatt hour in Europe right now for electricity. We're less than $9 in Oklahoma. We've got some of the cheapest in the country right here. And so I think that's going to be a huge advantage. The God-given things that God put in Oklahoma is going to be a huge advantage for us in the future. So when I think about how I lead. I'm a governor that does not believe you put the Constitution in the attic just because somebody in Washington, D.C. tells us to, okay? That's first and foremost. Religious liberties and freedom of speech, freedom of religion, that is core to who we are. Our founders knew that religious liberties were the keys to all other liberties, okay? So we have got to protect our way of life. As long as I'm governor, I'll stand for biblical worldview and biblical values and right and wrong. Because at the end of the day, whether I'm governor or I'm husband and father, I'm businessman, whatever, we serve an audience of one, right? We all give an account for what we do. And so I am so proud to be your governor. So thank you so much. God bless you. And God continue to bless the great state of Oklahoma and the United States of America. Thank you.